Hey everyone, welcome to Locked on Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers lose a tough one in Miami. Did they lose Anthony Davis too? That's next.
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked on Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts, always free, never going to be behind a paywall. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 21,000 subscribers to the channel, all of whom are going to be a little bit annoyed and upset and maybe slightly concerned, both about the Lakers at one game under 500 and an injury to Anthony Davis left the game in the second half of the 108-107 loss to the Heat in Miami, that with what was initially described as, I saw it as a hip spasm, Andy. Then I actually saw it phrased as a groin spasm, which I was concerned, quite frankly, that I'm not mature enough to talk about on a podcast. So maybe we stick to hip spasm instead, because that keeps us on safer ground.
Well, that's actually what they're calling it. So for the time being, I know. I'm just saying
we all saw the same reports, Andy.
Well, the majority of the reports and what seems to be the official report right now is hip spasm. So we can all remember the brief period where this show was not safe for work.
Do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So we'll catch up on the Anthony Davis injury. He seemed pretty confident after the game, Andy, that he'd be ready to play perhaps as soon as Wednesday. The entire NBA taking off today because it is election day across the country. A lot of off-year elections taking place. If you happen to be somewhere where one is taking place, please go vote. But even if he doesn't play Wednesday in Houston, it doesn't sound initially like it will be a long-term problem, but we'll get back to that in a second. The game, though, Andy, 108-107, the Lakers lose in Miami in what on the surface seems like a gutsy, gritty, understandable loss. But then under the hood a little bit, it's another one in the ledger of these games that they've started to pile up where you're like, man, I could have had that one. You know? Yeah,
the last two-ish minutes of
and
the
17
game.
seconds, Andy.
Yeah, nobody scored on either team. The Lakers took all threes down the stretch, all misses. I think they could have looked for better looks. Not that the threes themselves were bad looks, but it just seemed like they weren't looking for anything other than threes. And, on one hand, you could argue that you can't complain when, professional shooters like Austin Reeves get a wide open three. They should be able to hit that. The flip side is when you've got somebody like LeBron, or you've got somebody like Austin Reeves, or somebody like Christian Wood, who was starting to come alive in a big way in the second half. Christian Wood was actually quite good in the second half of this game when they really needed him down Anthony Davis. I just feel like you could have tried to mix it up a little bit more. And, this was indicative, I think also too, against, I believe it was Orlando. They had a stretch where it felt like they got impatient. Oh, yeah, it was against Orlando. Like in the last, there's about maybe 4 or 5 minutes left in the game before Darvin eventually just emptied the bench. The Lakers started getting impatient, I thought, looking for, I want to say a knockout because they would have been still behind, but looking to try to get back into the game quicker than they needed to. And there were a lot of people I saw at Cam Brothers on Twitter yelling that the final shot went to Cam Reddish in the corner. He missed that. Why were you drawing that up for Cam Reddish? I seriously doubt they were. Why was Cam Reddish on the floor? Because the Lakers were down pretty much everybody other than Max Christie because Anthony Davis got injured. D'Angelo Russell, we will talk about this, got ejected in absolutely the worst, most irresponsible fashion, just flat out. We'll discuss it later. But, D'Angelo Russell would have been a really nice option to have out there.
If D'Lo had not been ejected, because it wasn't in the flow of play. The final possession it was out of a timeout.
It was drawn up.
It was not. There was Cam Reddish wouldn't have been on the floor. D'Lo would have been on the floor for Cam Reddish.
Right, and I saw people
more shooters.
Right, and I've seen some people saying that it should have been Max Christie instead of Cam Reddish. Which, look, if you want to say that Christie you believe in more as a shooter overall than Reddish, that's fine. And I can see the argument.
Sure. I mean,
but Christie is currently shooting 14% from behind the arc this season and played pretty badly in this game.
Right. He hasn't played much. He hasn't shot the ball much. And to stick the guy who's been sitting, for that long, and then for the last possession of the game, when he is not, it's not like you're taking, pick a dead eye 3-point shooter, a guy whose job it is.
No, you're not putting Luke Kennard in cold.
Correct. Somebody like that who can come off the bench cold, JJ Redick or something like that, and go hit a 3-pointer. That's not Christie is that guy. And so you are really running out of dudes at that point. And so, Reddish, in theory, could have swung it to Taurean Prince. There wasn't
a lot of time, though.
There was enough, I think, to make that. But the flip side is he is wide open. And look, the reason he was wide open is because if you watch the play, the short side corner, they rotated. I think it was Kyle Lowry rotated out. They made a good play. I think it was Jimmy Butler dropped back as LeBron was penetrating and made sure that the pass back to Prince. Keep in mind, LeBron can make any pass from any angle, so it doesn't matter where guys are standing. They cut off the pass to Taurean Prince. Miami is a smart team. They left Reddish open when they collapsed on LeBron for a reason. It was not an accident that their defense, when they collapsed on LeBron, allowed Reddish to be open. Somebody's going to be open in that situation because you want to make sure LeBron doesn't have the empty drive. But
and the other thing too,
it was a wide open corner three. And nobody, it's not a mystery, people watching this show. I'm not a big fan of Cam Reddish, and I don't think he's played great when Darvin talked him up after the game. I love what Darvin said about him. I love that he was supporting him, love that he called, said they wouldn't have been in this situation without his, brilliant defense and all these. And I don't care how much of it's true or not. Pick the kid up, support him. You're going to need him over the next few games anyway. You don't have enough players. The fact that a lot of that isn't true, I don't have to agree with him. But he's a professional basketball player, and he's standing alone in the corner. That is a pretty good shot, and they didn't really have an alternative to it.
Yeah,
and it was not what Darvin drew up in the huddle.
No, the last thing.
Let's design it. LeBron, make sure you get the ball out of your hands and get it to Cam Reddish.
No, the last thing I would say, just in terms of the idea of maybe he could have swung it back to Taurean.
I'm not criticizing him for not doing it.
I know you're not. But I know you're not. I'm just saying, even if you want to make that argument, from there though, you have no time to possibly get a rebound if you miss. So it's bad options either way. What really would have been a better option, again, we will get to this, D'Angelo Russell out on the court instead of in the locker room.
But they went, the exact sequence, and you referenced it over the last 219. It was a LeBron missed three, a LeBron offensive foul, a Reeves missed three, another missed three from Reeves, and then the Reddish shot. The only one that you look at and you say that was a bad shot was, I think, the one it was the first Reeves missed three, where he had to sort of reset. Mm-hmm. But that one, I think, to some degree, some of these misses, whether it's LeBron or Reeves, were a function of fatigue. I mean, Reeves played 40 minutes in this game.
It was quite good. Austin Reeves was very good in this game.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Anthony Davis injury. It appears the Lakers have dodged a bullet there, but we'll see how they treat it on Wednesday, because you don't want to turn a 1-game thing into a 5-game thing. So that's next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can celebrate this NFL season, relish in it with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you get $150 in bonus bets back with any winning $5 money line bet. So $150 in bonus bets if your team wins that $5 money line bet. And you can use those bonus bets on spreads, on player props, over-unders, futures, all sorts of fun stuff. The app is really easy to use. All the options right there at your fingertips. And of course, NBA props you can bet on. LeBron is currently a 50-1 bet to win MVP. Tonight's game certainly didn't hurt his cause. Anthony Davis, 31-1. Anthony Davis now 8-1 for Defensive Player of the Year, the tri-leader, along with reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Evan Mobley of the Cavs. AD, by the way, moving up that list. Austin Reeves, 43-1 for Most Improved Player. Christian Wood, 34-1 for Sixth Man of the Year. And Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent tied at 50-1 for that honor. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Enjoy the NFL season and just sports with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
Obviously, the final two shots, Andy, are a bit of a disappointment for Reeves. The second one, it was a really clean, good look. Robert Horry on the Lakers postgame show on Spectrum Sportsnet, he wanted the Lakers to get to the bucket a little more.
So did I.
Yeah, no, I understand, and but that even he was like, that is a shot you have to take. Like, it is a off the screen and roll in rhythm. A guy who was a very good shooter. That's an in rhythm shot that you really do need to take. But overall, I mean, I think if you're looking for good signs coming out of this, I think given the second half of which game was it? The Clippers game where he played well. And then the Orlando game where he was one of the only players on the floor that played well. And then Monday night, Reeves went for a near triple-double, 23 points, 9 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 8 from three-point range. Unfortunately, it was 3 of 6 until the last minute of play. 10 rebounds, 9 assists. He had 4 turnovers, a couple of which were pretty bad cross-court passes that you just shouldn't make. But overall, I think it's like he looks like Austin Reeves again. I am no longer concerned about that. Whatever the problem was, he is playing like he ought to be. And so that's something to like.
Yeah. In particular, I really like 3 offensive rebounds, and at least 2 off the top of my head, I remember led directly to second chance points for the Lakers. And, one of them was Reeves flying, like really just flying through for a putback dunk. He seemed really lively in this game from start to finish in a way that he had been trending towards this, like you said, Brian, but this was the first game that from start to finish, I thought Austin Reeves looked like Austin Reeves. And as you mentioned, that's a welcome sign. It also, too, because we've talked about this a lot, not a coincidence that Reeves looking like Reeves led to the Lakers not having to start the second quarter down 1 billion points.
That's when we were talking about this for yesterday's show. It was like part of the problems with the slow starts, and part of the is just because Reeves has been so bad. And part of the reason that the Reeves Russell combination this year is so deep underwater when it was so good last year. Obviously, Jared Vanderbilt plays a role in that. It's a different defensive combination and other stuff and all that. But part of it is
Taurean Prince, by the way, for, in case people didn't know, was back in the lineup tonight. He started. Cam Reddish slid back to the bench
and played pretty well. It was 9 points, 4 of 9 from 3 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3-point range. Broadly speaking, the Lakers did a better job on the glass. They did a better job in terms of staying connected to the game from the beginning. But just overall, it's one of these games where it's like, if you take it in isolation, no Vanderbilt, no Hachimura, no Gabe Vincent, you lose Anthony Davis for the second half of the game. Anthony Davis again said this was a hip spasm, a groin spasm. They all kind of refer to the adductor. He talked about the adductor muscle. AD says he's going to play on Wednesday. I don't know if he will.
He said it very confidently, very definitively. He said he's not worried about this at all
until he wakes up the next morning, the next day or two and it actually still feels that good, I'll wait. But at the very least, he misses the Houston game, which we'll talk about as something that could be, a little more problematic than it seemed before. Houston boat raced Sacramento on Monday night and are not looking nearly as terrible as a lot of people thought that they could. It doesn't sound like this is a 3-week injury. They didn't take him off the bench. They actually let him try to go back into the game. He didn't go back into the locker room for tests right away, all that stuff. If he doesn't play Wednesday, he's probably back on the floor Friday. It's not. I think the Lakers appear to have dodged a bullet, at least right now.
Yeah, it was interesting when AD got hurt. He was attempting a spin move against some contact. He lost the ball, went down trying to recover it and pass it off, and he looked really awkward after that. And his body language before checking into the game looked just miserably uncomfortable. And I was hoping that was me just reading too much into the 5 seconds of a TV broadcast that they happened to show, but it wasn't the case. He tried twice in the third quarter to stay into the game, and the first stint, he truly could not move. Like, he really just looked immobile. Took him out, then he came back in, and for a couple minutes looked better. Still not great. And someone pointed out on Twitter to us at Cam Brothers that AD's stretch of testing this out actually hurt them. That's actually a part where they really fell behind in the game. And, look, there's some truth to this. It's a double-edged sword. Like, they were really playing 4-on-5 during this period where AD was out on the court. And look, given who AD is, if AD doesn't attempt to go back in, he's going to get crushed by fans for being soft and here we go again and street clothes and all the other BS. But the truth is, the period where he was trying to play, it was admirable. It's what you want to see from your leader, but it actually did kind of hurt the team.
That's sort of the bad luck of a game like this where, the flip side is they don't have enough players for him.
Yeah, I'm not being critical.
If he thinks he can try, he needs to try.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's clear. I'm not being critical of AD at all. I'm just saying the reality is it hurt. And then,
it's just a bummer because, you look at this game and the Lakers held Miami scoreless over the last 2-17, and Miami was trying real hard to give the Lakers an opportunity to win the game. And they really did. And, Lakers, played good defense. They rotated hard. They did all kinds of good stuff. And you see this and you look at the game and it's like, could have had that one. It's the game, the Sacramento game in Sacramento. Could have had that one. And they're not bad losses in the sense that you lost a game to a bad team. I think they've only played one bad game so far of the 7, and that was Saturday in Orlando. They just played a bad game. That was really bad. Orlando doesn't suck. They still played bad.
No, they were atrocious.
They were really bad. But look, that's going to happen. Good teams play bad games. But what makes this game now on Wednesday a little trickier is you're still down a bunch of guys. I don't know if Hachimura is going to be back. Gabe Vincent certainly won't, and Vanderbilt won't. You're 3-4, and Houston.
Oh, Jaxson. We forgot to mention Jaxson Hayes didn't play tonight.
Yes, correct. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know if he's going to be available on Wednesday. You're 3-4. You're at the front end of a long road trip. You're now going to play Houston, who are off to a pretty good start. And like I said, just annihilated the Kings on Monday, who are a good team. They've beaten now the Kings twice, and it's a frightening place to be, where you can start looking at it and going, oh, we could be 3-5 if Vady doesn't play, or we're still down all these guys. And then you go to Phoenix on Friday, who by all reports could have Bradley Beal back, and this sort of.
They may not have Devin Booker.
They might not, but they might have Beal. So we're into that dicey space that I think we were all.
Thankfully, they will have Yusuf Nurkic because he's been awful for them. He's been horrible.
One can only hope.
They did not like that trade when it happened.
But let's talk. For those people who are upset that Cam Reddish was on the floor taking that last shot, you could blame Darvin Ham for, I guess, not playing Max Christie. That's not how we're doing it. The other guy you could blame is D'Angelo Russell, who was already in the locker room because he'd been thrown out of the game. So let's talk about that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Jace Medical. And for the last few years with the pandemic, various natural disasters, other unforeseen emergencies have taught us anything. It's that you have to expect the unexpected. All of a sudden, there can be supply chain shortages for medications, and then you're unable to get medications in a timely manner. And the solution is the Jace Case, a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Jace Medical now allows you to customize your Jace Case with dozens of add-on medications for your family's specific needs. Jace is continually working to expand their medication offerings. In the recent efforts, they've included ivermectin, an anti-parasitic medication for conditions like scabies and lice. You can also buy a gift card for your family or for your loved ones so they can get a Jace Case of their own. Go to jacemedical.com, enter the code LOCKEDON at the checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at JASEmedical.com.
It wasn't his best game of the season, Andy, but it probably would have been handy to have the option of D'Angelo Russell around for that last part of the game. Might not hurt.
Look, he was 6 of 10 from the field for 13 points, 6 assists, a block, 3 turnovers. I agree with you. It wasn't the best game D'Lo played. It was also not the worst.
He's fine. Yeah,
I was going to say it wasn't the worst game he had played either. And either way, he is a better 3-point shooting option or a better facilitating option if you're trying to say get the ball to Taurean Prince in a timely manner or somebody else. He is better at doing either of those things than either Max Christie or Cam Reddish, who were at this point the only options for Darvin Ham. LeBron was running the play. Austin Reeves was spaced out. Taurean Prince was spaced out. Christian Wood was down low in rebounding position in case of a miss, which you absolutely need to do with him there. So at that point, you're down to either Reddish or Christie. You can argue amongst yourselves which one you would have preferred. The truth is, neither was a great option. D'Angelo Russell ends up getting ejected in this game. It wasn't clear exactly what he was upset about. There was a sequence where he was running a pick and roll with Christian Wood, passed it off. It turned into a turnover. He was yelling at the refs in a timeout after Miami had scored off that turnover. He was really hot, really animated. Like Jaxson Hayes was actually trying to pull him away. And then when they came back in the broadcast, because it had been a timeout, we learned that D'Lo had been ejected after the game. D'Lo was asked what he said, and he said that he, quote, would rather not. I'd rather not when asked what he said. And he said he kind of implied that he was still trying to figure out exactly what he did to get ejected. Darvin Ham talked after the game about how he thought the refs were pretty inconsistent in this game, that they lost control of the game. Like he specifically mentioned the crew chief not having control of this game. I will say right now, the refereeing in this game was atrocious. Just straight up, it was bad. So I get why Darvin and D'Lo, LeBron, who talked after the game, granted he was asked about this. He didn't bring it up on his own, but he was asked about not getting to the line, certain calls, whatever. Like this was a badly officiated game. I tweeted out at Cam Brothers a still of a sequence where Jimmy Butler had LeBron's arm literally like
pinned to his body,
pinned into his body. And LeBron's like got his arm out like, little help. like looking at the refs like, hello.
Super sneaky vet trick. And then LeBron got called for a foul.
Hello. That being said, though, you have to keep your composure. And D'Lo needed to shut the hell up. He just did.
Correct.
Like the team was already down AD and like half the roster. You cannot get ejected there no matter how in the right you are. Period. Full stop.
Correct. That is the correct answer. And I had a trouble figuring out like exactly what was said, because he wasn't like shrieking at the referee. It wasn't like screaming at them. He didn't grab a camera from the baseline and a photographer and show it to them. But once you get teed up the first time, you, in this context, just have to shut up. Can't say another word, because your presence is more important than getting your feelings off your chest. And I don't know if he deserved to get thrown out. I don't know if it was the referees as a group just got super duper big rabbit ears. And I don't care. It doesn't matter. You just can't get tossed in that situation. Whatever you have to do, you cannot pick up that second tee. Certainly not for something like that. You pick up a flagrant because you have to in the flow of play, and now you're ejected. Okay, fine. But it can't be for yapping.
No.
So, I mean, you and I are pretty big defenders of Russell. And, to say the least, the trade D'Lo folks are out and about on social media. I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, dude,
it does not.
Dude had what, like 27 the other night? It's like, I mean, he's played pretty well this year. But it just takes this. People just don't like him, and he is this year's guy who is going to get blamed whenever anything goes wrong. It will be about D'Angelo Russell if he had just done something different or better or whatever. But in this case, Andy, he actually deserves the criticism.
It's funny too. Like, we've talked before about how, D'Lo, first of all, he's just an interesting guy to cover. Like, he's a very interesting personality, and he's a really bright guy. And as immature as he was when he entered the league, we've talked before about, like Julius Randle was a young 19. I mean, Julius Randle was a very mature 19. Like, Brandon Ingram seemed like 31 when they drafted him at 18. D'Angelo Russell was an immature 19.
Like a 9-year-old.
Right. But you could always tell that he was very smart. And he's like a thinker. But he's also a thinker that doesn't always, I think out the context, like the full picture of how what he's saying will be received, or he doesn't care.
What you're saying is he does not read the room.
Because afterwards, he was asked about just sort of the adversity that the team is going through right now, being down 3-4 in their record. They're on the road, missing half the team. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen with Anthony Davis, who also, it should be noted too, and I thought this was great. He said that despite playing, he's averaging like 40-something minutes a game. He said that his body feels great. Like right now, like he really feels.
Yeah, he was asked, do you think it's, because he's leading the league in minutes right now.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers have played 2 overtime games and are short guys and all that kind of stuff. He stopped. He knew what the question was, and he stopped it before it was even out. I think it was Dave McMenamin at ESPN was asking, perfectly legitimate question, by the way, and cut it off. He's like, no. And 6 games in, this is the 7th game of the season. I don't think he's lying. I don't think you can attribute this to wear and tear. I think it's bad luck, but hopefully it's not too bad.
But anyway, D'Lo was asked about just the adversity that they're going through right now. And he said, quote, "This is the adversity we need as a group. With guys out, with all the nonsense going on, we still had a chance. That's all you could ask for." And said, unfortunately, we didn't win this game, but there's still some positives to gain from this one. He is correct globally in the sense of things that you can take from this loss, from where they are right now, the things that led to this loss. He is correct that the Lakers put up one hell of a fight in this game, shorthanded on the road, then missing guys they didn't expect to be missing, even knowing half the team was out. Yes, like this is adversity that you can build off. And I think is often valuable for a team. But part of the nonsense that happened in this game was you. Like, you were actually, D'Lo, part of the nonsense. I realize you were asked the question, but just not a great reading of the room. Like, it just isn't. And this is something we've talked about before that can be infuriating with D'Lo from the perspective of a lot of fans, but I think also very fascinating if you're just studying a player while covering it. He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah. I think it's just the way this season evolves is going to be, it's a little, a little Powish in some ways too. People will it was sort of when they felt good about the Lakers, Pow was awesome, a great asset. When they felt bad about the Lakers, this guy's soft and he sucks. And I'm not putting Russell on the level of Pau Gasol as a Hall of Famer, but it's just the vibes. We're talking about vibes here. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. The Lakers with a challenging game ahead of them against the Houston Rockets, who have played some good games, at least against the Sacramento Kings, and have a lot of talent that is now bolstered by actual veterans. Dylan Brooks played pretty well for them so far this season.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. The Lakers may or may not be with Anthony Davis. We will hopefully learn a little bit more about that before the game on Wednesday for tomorrow's show. But we'll see. But they will not have Hachimura. They will not have Vincent.
Do we know definitively they won't?
I'm pretty sure that I think these guys. I think like you still have you need. Let me rephrase. My understanding is I don't think they will, because I think there's a process you have to go through before you can be cleared. But maybe he's further along in that than I thought, or maybe I'm confusing him.
I mean, he's traveling with the team, so that's a
right.
good start.
So, but I could be confusing this with football. He might be back, but right. Vincent certainly won't be, and Vanderbilt won't be. So
we don't know about Jaxson Hayes.
We don't know about Hayes. So they're going to be a little bit shorthanded regardless. It could be a lot shorthanded, and if Anthony Davis doesn't play, really a lot shorthanded in a game that now, again, not a must win, but you don't want to be 3-5.
Well, on the bright side, at least D'Lo likely didn't get himself suspended.
Yeah. Let's end on an optimistic note. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 21,000 subscribers to the channel. We will see everybody on Wednesday.